What's up, everybody? If you want to join the greatest online Star Wars community, the Fandom Menace, make sure you hit that subscribe button before today's video starts, so you don't miss out on any updates and you're always the first to know when our newest videos go live.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Just as it was incorrectly stated that Dewey defeated Truman, it was also incorrectly stated that the fans beat Disney, and all is well for Star Wars. Both are cases of misinformation, and both prove the opposite is true. If you've been watching from the periphery for the last year and change, you'll have definitely noticed a riff in Star Wars. It all comes from one moment, The Last Jedi. Normally when a film is divisive, that's it. Some like it, some don't, but people move on because it's a moot point. But not Star Wars. Oh no, not Star Wars. And definitely not The Last Jedi. There was something fishy about it from the get-go. Either you sat in the theater perplexed because you didn't know how what you just watched was considered Star Wars, or you sat there in awe while the biggest cinematic con job in history took place. As stated before, normally, that's it. You didn't like the movie, and you went home to complain on the internet or to friends. With The Last Jedi, that changed. You used to be able to innocently rip on a film, but with The Last Jedi, it became tantamount to a criminal offense, and these thought police are attempting to shut it down. In basic terms, they've turned disliking The Last Jedi into a political statement, to hide behind the poor filmmaking and deflect themselves from angry fans. If you need a refresher on 2018, the year that broke Star Wars, well, check out our past videos. We were there at the forefront. Instead of living in last year, let's move forward to 2019, the present. Rian Johnson, Saturn Award-winning director of The Last Jedi and face of the recent failure, has taken time from his busy schedule writing his new Star Wars trilogy to interact with the fans on Twitter. Now, normally, when such a great man gives us, the little people, the time of day, we should be honored by his presence. But in typical Rian Johnson fashion, he subverted our expectations, and it's all one big mess on Twitter. Over the weekend, and for those watching in the future, the weekend of January 26th and 27th, a wild Rian Johnson appeared and started interacting with the fans. Now, the Brown Nosers showed up right away to try to get some attention from someone famous, and it worked. Congratulations on peaking in life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
That's a little too far back. I got this. On December 17th, 2018, Twitter user Remake The Last Jedi had a post that stated, Avengers Infinity War has sold $9,743,404 more in Blu-ray sales than The Last Jedi, despite selling 1 million less Blu-rays. That means The Last Jedi has sold the most Blu-rays of 2018 at the most discounted price. Hashtag Remake The Last Jedi. The tweet was discussed, then people moved on. Who didn't move on was Rian Johnson, the director of this film. Over a month after the initial tweet, Rian Johnson chimed in with this response. I have never once, not one single time, ever attacked someone for just not liking the movie. Show me a tweet where I do that. I never have and never would. But if someone is an abusive asshole, I have zero hesitation in calling them an abusive asshole. Now, because this is YouTube and everyone wants to twist words, let's just get this out of the way. Rian Johnson has the right to say whatever he wants, and so do I. So now it's time to show Rian Johnson he's been doing the exact opposite of what he claims. Get the popcorn, folks. This is going to be fun. So let's look at the Twitter hole and see what Rian Johnson's been saying. Now, these are the tweets that he didn't delete, so let's just keep that in mind. Now, this tweet is from last year, January 23rd of 2018. Don't feel bad. 1, I have quickly become a Twitter power user. Rest assured that most of these dweebs are shouting into the void. And 2, the ones that do get through, I draw power from. I am basically the computer from Superman 3. I just wanted to look at this one because it's kind of funny. I mean, does anyone remember what happened to the computer in Superman 3? Well, I guess Ryan was right. I think the word most commonly associated with Rian Johnson in Twitter is his phrase, man baby. It's been used before, but never with such ferocity, never with such anger, never lamer. It all started back in June. Allow me to quote Bounding Into Comics to set the stage for you. Rian Johnson and John Boyega attack Star Wars fans and consumers at their own risk. After Chuck Wendig called Star Wars fans white supremacists, Star Wars director Rian Johnson and actor John Boyega have been insulting and attacking their rabid fan bases following the Kelly Marie Tran deletion of her Instagram posts. Tran played Rose Tico in the Rian Johnson-directed Last Jedi. Johnson has led the charge by calling fans and consumers who are critical of The Last Jedi man-babies. And this is the tweet from Rian Johnson. On social media, a few unhealthy people cast a big shadow on the wall. But over the past 4 years, I've met a lot of real fellow Star Wars fans. We like and discuss stuff, but we do it with humor, love, and respect. We're the vast majority. We're having fun and doing just fine. He would further clarify that there's a difference between not liking a movie and hatefully harassing a woman so bad she got off social media. And this comes from Dan. Critique and showing dislike against something is trolling? Good tactic. Whatever makes you sleep at night. Rian Johnson. Done with this disingenuous bullshit. You know the difference between not liking a movie and hatefully harassing a woman so bad she has to get off social media, and you know which of these two we're talking about here. Dan would further go on to explain his point. Note, I didn't necessarily deny that this person was harassed, but I deny your claims of my comments being disingenuous because of your extremely predictable assumptions of my implications. Rian Johnson fired back and said, Your implication was not an implication at all. It was explicitly stated in your tweet. You're conflating critiquing a movie with being an abusive asshole to people online, when it is clear as day they are two separate things, and we're condemning the latter and not the former. And then a troll pops up, and we're not going to pay attention to him, but let's close this out with Gregory. Gregory says, Perhaps not lashing out at people disappointed with your last film might be good for your spirit and soul as well. You've unfairly painted disappointed fans with a broad brush. It's a bad look. I hope you've learned something from all of this. Rian Johnson says one more time, Gregory, I have never lashed out at someone for being disappointed in the film. I have lashed out at people whose entire online presence is dedicated to spewing hatred and abuse at anyone involved in it. I know you know the difference. But somebody called Political Brit American Topics had this to say to Rian. Some people who have been accused of being man-babies and bigots only have raised genuine questions, so why are they also being caught in the flack for those insults too? I agree harassment should never occur, but that does not give right to the other side to harass others. Not by me, they're not. Have questions, raise issues, disagree to your heart's content. That's what fandom is all about. But if someone's an asshole to me and my friends, I reserve the right to call them an asshole. So none of this is new for Rian Johnson, yet he's claiming that he's never attacked fans for disliking The Last Jedi. Can anyone tell me the definition of hypocrisy? Can you, Rian? If you can't, it's the contrivance or false appearance of virtue or goodness while concealing real character or inclinations, especially with respect to religious or moral beliefs. Hence, in a general sense, hypocrisy may involve dissimulation, pretense, or a sham. A sham. Rian Johnson, a sham. Rian Johnson, a sham. I feel like they're one and the same. Looking further into the madness that is Rian Johnson leads me to an article from Psychology Today titled, Why Bad Guys Think They're Good Guys. It's a good read and I suggest you check it out for yourselves, but the parallels to Rian Johnson and villainy is alarming. And I quote, In a conflict, each side sees itself as good and justified, and the enemy as evil. In fact, you can argue that the only real thing that differentiates a protagonist from an antagonist is the author that is taking the protagonist's side and showing his or her justifications rather than the justifications of the antagonist. In a conflict, the enemy is painted to seem horrible. The face of evil is no one's face, writes Roy Baumeister in his book Evil Inside Human Violence and Cruelty. It is always a false image that is imposed or projected on the opponent. Pure evil, argues Baumeister, is just a myth. Psychologist Albert Bandura would probably agree. He theorized that people who do evil have justified the morality of their actions to themselves in some way by convincing themselves that their behavior is moral. These people can separate and disengage themselves from immoral behavior and its consequences. I know that's a little heavier than we usually deal with here on the channel, but let's break it down a little and see how Rian Johnson relates to it. In conflict, each side sees itself as good and justified, and the enemy as evil. This is the obvious. There's a strong fan versus Disney mentality. There are many reasons why the fans are angry with Disney and Lucasfilm. Canceling of the EU, canceling Clone Wars only to bring it back but a friendlier version, remaking the original trilogy while attempting to belittle it, producing bad video games that die by unoriginality and corporate greed, producing massive amounts of unwanted merchandise based on disliked characters that's killing retail. You see how I mentioned 5 reasons why the fans are angry with Disney, and not a single one of them has to do with race or gender of the characters? But no, they can't allow it. Next point. You can argue that the only real thing that differentiates a protagonist from an antagonist is that the author is taking the protagonist's side and showing his or her justifications rather than the justifications of the antagonists. In a conflict, the enemy is painted to seem horrible. This is where the media comes in to propagate the garbage that is considered journalism these days. How many articles have you seen where a writer from a particular biased source comes out and attacks fans and outright states that the only people who dislike these movies are racist bigots online? A lot of them. Most recently, we've had Esquire write blatant lies about the fandom. And every once in a while, when he needs a pay bump, Scott Mendelson from Forbes has another thing to chime in about Star Wars fans. Those aren't the only sources of these lies, but they're some of the biggest. Authors, and I use the term loosely, like Chuck Wendig, have gone nuclear on fans for not liking a film, and they make it political. That achieved one thing: getting his ass fired. The face of evil is no one's face. It's always a false image that is imposed or projected on the opponent. This sounds exactly like Rian Johnson and man babies. People who do evil have justified the morality of their actions to themselves in some way. By convincing themselves their behavior is moral, these people can separate and disengage themselves from immoral behavior and its consequences. We see this at play when Rian constantly backtracks on his statements by saying something along the lines of he would never attack a fan for disliking the film. But we see him blur that line rather quickly, like his tweet to political Brit American topics. Consequence is an interesting topic in relation to Rian Johnson because, while he operates publicly as if there's no consequences, pieces of information from Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, paint a different picture. In September of 2018, Disney CEO Bob Iger admitted that the theatrical rollout of the Star Wars franchise may have been a little too much too fast. He goes on to say that you can expect some slowdown, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make films, said Iger. We're just at the point where we're going to start making decisions about what comes next after JJ's, Iger added, but I think we're going to be a little more careful about volume and timing, and the buck stops here on that. While nothing was explicitly stated about Rian Johnson's trilogy directly from Bob Iger, it was treated like other confirmed canceled Star Wars projects too. Speaking of consequences and blame, you guys remember the whole Russian bot thing? It was kind of like the 2018 defense for when things didn't go the way of the narrative. Easy, faceless targets. Sound familiar? One noted academic, Dr. Morton Bay, decided to write a groundbreaking paper titled Weaponizing the Haters, the Last Jedi and Strategic Politicization of Pop Culture Through Social Media Manipulation. It was, a bunch of words compiled together, but the real question was if it was any good. Well, good is subjective, but what isn't is just how biased the paper was. Now, back when it was the hot news story, Dr. Bay reached out to Rian Johnson for a coffee date. Harmless, but a bit sketchy if I do say so my damn self. Did Woodward and Bernstein reach out to Nixon for drinks after Watergate? I don't know, I'm asking you. The Bay Papers, which they've never been known as, have an odd connection to top men at Disney. Actually, it's just one man. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney. Were you aware that Dr. Morton Bay has worked at the Center for Digital Futures at USC Annenberg for the last 6 months? Did you know that in 2017, a woman named Willow Bay became dean of the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism? Do you know who Willow Bay is married to? Bob Iger, CEO of Disney. I'm not making any accusations, just bringing attention to facts. Stone Cold Steve Austin facts. You can be the judge of the whole situation yourself, but CNET sort of put the kibosh on Dr. Bay when it showed that the suspected Russian trolls are so few and far between that it is basically the normal amount of Russian trolls you would expect to be present in a high-profile online debate. And ultimately, it is ironic that in an era when fake news and misinformation are so rife, Bay's study found widespread appeal via a media-driven narrative that was far, far away from the truth. Ugh, I'm glad they stopped using that argument. It was making them look bad. Rian Johnson's henchmen tried to further the faceless narrative to further the deflection, but failed. You know, the more I look at Rian Johnson, the more he does fit into Psychology Today's definition of a villain. At least he's better than Kylo Ren. Now let's just get the obvious out of the way. Rian Johnson is trolling each and every one of you. Every tweet, retweet, and response is all a big joke to him, and you're buying it. But I have a way to take all of his power away and leave him the same hollow, lifeless husk that he left Star Wars. Ignore him. In the words of Admiral Akbar, it's all one big trap. Don't at him, don't tweet him, hell, don't even think about him. And if you can, don't watch his movie. Ever. The Last Jedi was the biggest con job in history. It has a built-in defense mechanism because it made money off the back of a successful movie. That made money off the back of a more respected and successful movie, Return of the Jedi. It's all the law of diminishing returns, and with Disney Star Wars, the garbage attitudes of the creators will definitely keep the box office diminishing. Every time you interact with Johnson, all you're doing is helping him garner sympathy from his legions of liars who try to control the narrative. They have succeeded so far. Well, they think they have. The piles of unsold Last Jedi merchandise combined with the numbers from Disney confirming that Star Wars was the reason for the loss in consumer goods, i.e. the only place Disney lost money, paints a much different picture for Rian Johnson's masterpiece. It damaged Star Wars to such a huge degree that the small vocal minority excuse isn't economically feasible, and neither is Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. They try to throw the racist fan card out there. But if I'm not mistaken, it was Disney who shrunk down John Boyega on the Force Awakens Chinese poster to entice audiences, and it was China who shunned The Last Jedi in record time. But they don't want to talk about that because they're nuanced issues that require more tact than a tweet can portray. So those are my thoughts on Rian Johnson on Twitter, but I'm not done. If Rian Johnson watches this, and he may, who knows, I'm throwing an open challenge. Rian Johnson, you are formally invited to the High Council to talk about Star Wars, to defend your film. It'll be interesting to see if he says yes. Obviously, he'll say no, but at least we tried. We tried to extend an olive branch to Rian Johnson, the man behind The Last Jedi. I have many, many issues with the film, and none of them stem from gender or race. They stem from bad storytelling, bad writing, illogical decisions, and the fact that The Last Jedi is essentially a first draft. But if Rian Johnson doesn't call, I'm not too worried. I'm not going to be sitting by the phone hoping that he does. It's just an invite. So what do you think of the whole situation? Do you find it a little bit embarrassing when a creator attacks fans online? Or do you think that people of privilege and power should take the high road like The Rock and not talk shit to the fans and just ignore them? Personally, I feel like that's the most professional thing to do. You've reached a certain level, you represent a company, you should always give your best. And I think the best thing we can all do is just wait for Rian Johnson to sputter out. Because just as things started to cool down with Star Wars fans and Disney Star Wars, Rian Johnson's trying to heat things up. Because apathy is the most dangerous thing for them and us. It is truly a double-edged sword. Because if we become apathetic, we care less about their past transgressions and will be more willing to just go see the movie out of some odd loyalty to Star Wars. And if we become too apathetic, it's dangerous for Disney because they won't be able to properly gauge what could or couldn't be successful, therefore damaging Star Wars even further. So all I can say to you guys is remember everything that has been said about you by people like Rian Johnson, Morton Bay, and the myriad of other people who are possibly in the pocket of Disney. Remember what they called you, remember what they said, and remember to vote with your wallets. Now officially on this channel, I don't call for a boycott, I don't call for boycotts. All I can say is wait till people you like go see the movie and listen to their reviews. That way you've made up your own mind and people can't say that the fandom menace is this terrible thing, this terrible hate. Me personally, I want you guys to think for yourselves because that's where some of the best ideas come from. So that's it for today. This has been a long video, but if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and share it all over social media. But don't at Rian Johnson. He'll find it somehow. Don't attack him, don't bother him, don't bother Bob Iger or anybody. Just vote with your wallets and let them see that next year, Star Wars dropped even further in the consumer goods market. And let them see that Star Wars is non-existent in the marketplace because people were just fed up with the crap. That's how you hurt them, folks. Not by a smart, witty zinger of a tweet. Nah, kick them in the wallet. That's where it really, really hurts. So folks, I'll be back later with more. Check out our Patreon page. $1 a month goes a long way, but $5, which is only 17 cents a day, goes even further. It gives you exclusive access to digital content. You can appear on the show and all sorts of other perks the higher you go. But if you can't afford it, no problem. Just join our Facebook page, get involved with the community, have fun. That's what we're all about. A lot of fun. So I'll be back later in the week with more content. And as always, folks, thank you for watching and be excellent to each other. Hell, be excellent to those that aren't excellent to you. If you gotta kill them with kindness.